right, so let's talk about the basic canvas operations with cursor path editing. And this is true whether you're editing the cursor path of a screen recording or you're editing the path from the cursor path effect. All the operations are the same. So on the canvas, you can see we have a basic path. It's 2 points out here in space. If we look down at the timeline, we see it corresponds to these 2 keyframes down here, the start keyframe, the end keyframe. All right, so you can see there's some color indicating I've got this point actually selected. If I were to click off of this, neither of these are selected. They're both white. So this is selected. And if I wanted to move this, adjust the position of the start here, I could just click and drag it around, right? So same goes with the endpoint. I could adjust this and say, let's say I want to get up right about right there, right? So if we scan across this, there's our path. We've just modified it. All right, so you're not limited to just a start and an endpoint. As you're cruising along, one thing I want you to notice is we've got this diamond, the cursor path current position indicator, right? And an easy way to go ahead and add a new point, let's say I wanted to adjust this a little bit, is just to click and drag on it. And now I've got this new point, all right? You can see the cursor gets dragged along with it. That point is added down here in between the first keyframe and the second keyframe. So now I have a third keyframe, right? So I'm gonna zoom in on my timeline a little bit and we're just gonna keep cruising along and let's add another point. Now this time I'm gonna do something a little bit different. Instead of dragging this, I'm gonna come over on the cursor path and I'm going to context click on that. And I'm gonna go ahead and add a point. I want you to notice something. That point didn't get added where the playhead is at. Your playhead's right here where this cursor is right now. If you wanted to point there, just go ahead and drag that guy. Out here, you're indicating someplace in the future on this path. And so it's right there and its position in time is down here at this keyframe, right? So now we're gonna come up and we're gonna move like that. So that's the basics of adding individual points. When it comes to deleting points, it's a very similar operation, right? So if I've got something selected, I can simply tap the delete key and I've deleted points, right? Let's go ahead and add a point back in here because you're not limited in selection to just individual points. You can drag select to get multiple points. This allows you to move them together, just like so. And you can also delete them, just like so. Now, there are some limitations or fundamental requirements. You always have to have at least 1 point, I believe, is the rule we ended up with on cursor paths. So at some point, you know, if you multi-select all these guys and you try to delete them, it doesn't do anything because you got to have at least one. And if we were to come out here and delete this guy, yep, you can see I can get this individual point right there. I'm just going to go ahead and undo that. Now, that's not the only way to get points, right? Another way you can do it is to come over on your canvas. I've moved my playhead to the position right here. And, you know, so I've got this movement right here. Movement happens. I come to rest. I want to talk about new projects and the new Camtasia home experience. And we're here talking about it. And now I'd like to move over here to this. Well, just context click on the canvas, choose the extend cursor path to here option. And you go ahead and it's added a point right there. So, and I can adjust that right here. And now what you see is, all right, my basic movement along this path. And now I'm paused here in between these keyframes. And now I'm moving again until I come to rest right there. So that's the basics of adding points, deleting points, and moving points on the canvas. You have a number of other canvas operations. These are all Bezier points, right? So what I've got right here are Bezier tangent handles. And you can see in this case, it corresponds to, over in the properties panel, these line type, these point line types, right? So let's take a look at this real quickly. Right now it's Bezier. I've got handles. Let's go to this first one here. which creates a linear or hard angle. So now I have a hard angle. So it's straight lines. So if you're super into straight line precision, you know, this is your friend right here. Let's see, at this point, I want a new keyframe. This time, I clicked on the diamond instead of dragging it. I can go ahead and add a point that way. The cursor gets moved slightly, but now I've got this point right here. And again, it inherits the attributes of the previous one, I believe, or the previous and next. There's interpolation that goes between these points. So let's come in here and take a look at this. This changes it to a hard angle in and a curve out. So now I've got one handle, and that affects the curvature out. Now you notice on this guy, it's got a similar thing going on right here where it's got one angle because there's nothing going on past it. I could change it to a straight line if I wanted to. I could go back to an angle. On these end keyframes, I can't, well, I can click on that thing, but there's no such thing as, there's no beyond this. So I'm not going to have a Bezier curve that goes beyond it. So I just get the single handle, even though I clicked on that other one. Hopefully that makes sense. So this allows you to get really creative with your path movements, right? So you can get these swoopy lines, you can avoid things, and it's very simple to just manipulate things on the canvas. So that's the basic of canvas operations: tangent handles, adding points, moving, deleting.